Hi everyone, it's Jessica. Thanks for watching today. Today I am going to be creating a one-page scrapbooking layout of my daughters when they built a snowman on January 1st a couple of years ago. And I've already gathered the papers that I want to use and cut some of my pieces. I do end up cutting a little bit more and doing a few other things, but I have just kind of a basic idea going in my head. I'm not entirely sure at this point how it's going to turn out. But I do know that I want to start using up some of my papers, my old papers that I have. So these are from the Holly Jolly collection from Close to My Heart about a year or so ago. And I have been hanging on to that snowflake piece for a while because I really love it and I love that glacier color. It's one of my very favorites, which is why I cut out that middle piece because I knew I wasn't going to need the entire 12 by 12 sheet. So I did cut out the center and gutted it just so I could maybe save it to use on a different project somewhere. So I've also used my mix-in papers, my old papers from that same winter that the Holly Jolly collection was out. Like I said, I have a lot of old papers. I'm just trying to kind of use up some of my scraps and pieces and things that I still have around. So like I said, I did have a basic idea in my head of what I wanted this to be. I had seen a layout map on Pinterest that I kind of wanted to follow, but I actually didn't end up following it very much at all. It was just kind of a starting point for me. And so I did spend quite a bit of time messing with things and kind of moving and not really sure what I wanted the paper to be or how long I wanted it to be or where it should go. So it did kind of take me a little while to play around a little bit with this layout. Now, prior to starting, I did already cut out a couple of tags, and the one of them is actually out of glacier cardstock, and then I ran it through my snowflake embossing folder so that that glacier tag that I'm going to put over on the right-hand side of the page actually has some embossed snowflakes on it. It's really pretty. And the other one is where I'm planning to put my journaling. Now, I did decide to ink up the edges of all of my papers here. So in this particular paper collection, one of my favorite colors is peach. And so I just used that little sponge and my peach ink to edge distress around a bunch of the different pieces of paper. And then this is a zip strip from one of the paper packs, which is so pretty. It has that peach color in it as well. And it goes along perfectly with my daughter Hadley's winter coat in this picture. Now, even though I was using my Versamat, I was kind of going quickly and I didn't make sure that that zip strip went on straight, which I'm going to realize here in just a second when I go to put down my matted pictures. And I can tell that when I'm laying it down that that's not on quite straight. So I'm going to try to fix it. And I get part of that zip strip back up okay. And then it gets to a point where the paper is thinned out and I can tell it's going to rip in half if I keep pulling on it. So I back it back up and put it on. And I just figure that I will put some sort of embellishment or something there in that tiny little spot, which really probably no one but me would ever notice, where there is a slight gap between the zip strip and the matted photographs, to show that it's not quite entirely straight. But it ends up being fine. I do cover it with a little tab that has the date on it. So here I'm taking an old piece of sandpaper that I have from Close to My Heart, and I'm just going over the top of that embossed tag that I did with the snowflakes on it because our cardstock has a white core. And so I really love this trick because, especially with that snowflake embossing folder, when I do that, it makes it look more like snowflakes even because it kind of reveals the whiteness of the core paper. And so I like to do that trick. So I just did that with there. And then, like I said, I use my little sponge and my peach ink pad to ink up a lot of the edges of the papers here. And so this is the piece where I'm going to be putting my journaling. And then here I have already cut out a couple of circles with my stitched circle thin cut because I thought maybe I would put that down in the bottom left-hand corner. That doesn't end up being where it goes. You'll see what I do here. Since the girls had built a snowman, and that's what this page is all about, I ended up building my own snowman, and I kind of felt like I'm the one who's doing the building here. It took me quite a while to put my snowman together, but I they're building a snowman, and we are big fans of Frozen. So of course I thought, well, I guess I better title this page, Do You Want to Build a Snowman? And then I better have a snowman on there because I've got those circles. So that's kind of where I ended up going with this page. Now here I decided to use my green apple ink to stamp my journaling lines on the tag. I will be using my black journaling pen to put the journaling on there, but I like just bringing in that green just a little bit, because if you look in the pattern paper, green apple is one of the colors that does show up in that white piece that has the different colored dots going across and stripes. And so I didn't want everything to be glacier and peach. I did want to kind of pull out some of those other pops of color that you could see in that pattern paper. And so that's why I thought it'd be fun to put my journaling lines in green apple. And I used a really old stamp set. I think it's called Capture the Details, that I never actually put away. I always have it out on my desk because I use the date stamps and the journaling lines constantly. And again, more edge distressing after I have stamped January on there, also in green apple. And that's what I'm going to use, is that little tab with January on it to hide that little spot up there in the corner. I kind of fuss with it, and then I think, oh, wait, that can be the piece. Yes, that can be the piece that goes right there. And then you won't see the gap to show that that zip strip is not on quite straight. So it's all starting to kind of come together here. But like I said, I haven't started building my snowman yet. And once I get to that point, then it really kind of, this page did take me a little while to put together, because I didn't have a completely clear picture in my head of where I wanted this to go. And then I did kind of have to fuss with my snowman a little bit. And I also felt like the entire time I was creating this page, my family interrupted me about 50 million times. So I had to edit a bunch of that out. And overall, it was just quite a long page to put together. But probably if I had to recreate it, knowing what I know now, it would come together pretty quickly. So here I thought, you know what, my snowman in the picture has a green scarf on, and clearly the snowman that I'm building is going to need to have a scarf of some sort. And I do have that Winter Friends stamp set with a thin cut that just was in the November and December catalog of 2020. And it's one of my favorite stamp sets. I used it a lot on my Christmas cards. And I thought, I wonder if that scarf in there would fit on my snowman. And, you know, honestly, it was just a tad bit small. I didn't really like, I probably would have slid that top circle down a little bit more and made my snowman shorter. But I was trying to make sure that the neck of the snowman would work with that scarf. And so it did end up working, even though that scarf really was probably just a little bit small in there. Now here I've decided to pull out one of the new alphabet sets. This is from the Banner. I think it's called the Banner Alphabet, and I like it because it has a couple little dies on there. You can cut out some little pennant banners in different shapes, and then it has also some background stamps, so you could stamp those pennants, those banners, in a couple different patterns, and then put your letters right over top of them. And so I thought that would be cute to put out snowman across the bottom. And then I'm going to create on a separate little strip of white cardstock, I'm going to stamp out with my modern typewriter alphabet, Do You Want to Build A? And then have the snowman underneath. So here I'm going to start assembling my snowman. And like I said, I put that scarf in there. Now, if you noticed in the pictures of the final page, I did change the scarf up a little bit. Here I used one of the stamps that was part of the Winter Friends to stamp over him, and it kind of created this green plaid scarf. And I decided at the very end of this page that my page didn't have enough sparkle on it. And so I did use my green apple shimmer brush, and I went over that scarf that I had stamped. And when I did that, then you couldn't see the plaid stamp on there anymore. And it was just a solid green apple scarf, but it ended up really cute. And like I said, I wanted a little bit more sparkle on the page. I pulled a little bit of twine, some different green twine that I had in my stash that's forever old from, I don't know, Michael's or Joann's or something. And I tied off both of those tags that are over there on the right-hand side. And then now, like I said, I just am kind of putting some of these final touches on here. I also need to figure out, what am I going to do with my snowman's face? I can't leave him exactly blank. And I also, the whole time I'm kind of putting my title down, I'm like looking at that snowman and I'm thinking, what am I going to do with this? I've got to put a face on it somehow. And so that was kind of what I was brainstorming in my head. Like you can see here, I am putting that title down there, the snowman part, and then I did off camera stamp, do you want to build A, on a little strip of white cardstock. So that's going to go on there too when I'm done with this part. But like I said, the big question is how to build the snowman. I'm used to ones that are in snow, not ones that are on paper. So I went digging through my stash and I found an old, I believe it was a stamp of the month a couple of years ago. It was a Halloween stamp set actually, where you could kind of build a little Halloween kitty cat, and it had some eyes on there. So I stamped the eyes on there, and then I went digging for what could I use for my snowman's nose. And I found an old Christmas stamp set that had a tiny carrot-shaped ornament stamp on it, and so I went and found some orange ink, and I stamped that, and I tried to, when I was putting it in my ink, I was trying not to get the top part of the ornament where the hook would go through, so that way it would look a little bit more carrot-like, and so I did that. And then I was like, oh gosh, now what about the mouth? So I did decide to just draw it in myself. I took my journaling pen and I just did little circles like they were, little pieces of coal, I guess is what people tend to make snowman mouths out of, although who actually has coal laying around? But I did the snowman mouth myself with my journaling pen, and then I'm just going to put the rest of that title down. And at this point, except for my journaling and the hat and the snowman, I am pretty much done. So I did create the hat mostly off camera. And he does need some buttons. So I went from the Funny Farm stamp set because I knew there was a tiny little heart stamp in there. And I just stamped his little buttons down the front of him as a heart in some glacier ink. And then, like I said, off camera, I'm going to kind of create a black hat for him. And then I'm also going to take my piercing tool and some DMC thread that's kind of in that same sort of green apple color, and I'm going to punch some holes across the top of that snowman title because it is a banner, and so I kind of like the idea of having it look like there was a thread running through it, as if it were hanging. And so I just kind of punched to either side of each of those rectangles, and then I just kind of did so that they were all connected. And here you can see I just used a little bit of washi tape to kind of hold my thread down in the back. And that's just DMC embroidery thread. And like I said, I just kind of dig through until I find a color that I think matches my page. And so there's that. So there's the hat that I created off camera. And of course we need, like I said, a little bit more sparkle. So when I'm done assembling this hat, I take my black shimmer brush and I shake it up really well. Oh, I had a little bit of adhesive on there because it was a really tiny piece to glue on. I take my black shimmer brush and I cover it in a bunch of that black shimmer just so that his hat and his scarf are really sparkly. And that was pretty much it. At that point, I've got my snowman built. It's been really fun. I do scrapbook chronologically, and it's not very often that I'm scrapbooking at the same time of year of what's going on in my pictures. So even though they're a couple of years behind, it was fun to see this picture of my daughters on January 1st a few years ago when they were building their snowman. All right, guys, thanks for watching along. If you liked what you see, please consider shopping with me. Happy crafting!